ADHD was once thought to be a developmental condition, but today it is acknowledged as a persistent issue that can last well into adulthood. A study led by psychologist Dr. Margaret Sibley reveals that it persists in 5 to 75% of people. People with ADHD may be diagnosed in childhood or later as an adult. We may be familiar with the signs of ADHD that emerge early in life, like behavioral issues at school, being unable to sit still in class, difficulty following the teacher's instructions or finishing tasks. But what does ADHD look like in adults? Are they similar to the signs displayed during childhood, or are there any differences? In this video, let's explore together some of the signs of ADHD in adults. Mental restlessness. Perhaps you're accustomed to the fact that the letter H in ADHD refers to physical hyperactivity, where one excessively fidgets and moves about constantly. But did you know that the letter H is also associated with mental restlessness? Professor of cognitive psychology, Dr. Kimberly Quinn, says that the ADHD mind is constantly filled with a flock of very busy hummingbirds, zipping in and out with each new and interesting flower, and with a constant buzz. ADHD brain is the internal motor that won't simply shut off. Kate Moore Youssef, a fellow adult with ADHD, describes this experience as having continuous inner chatter and overthinking that causes emotional burnout and mental exhaustion by the end of the day. This internal restlessness in adults with ADHD was measured using the internal restlessness scale in a study by psychology professor Dr. Lisa Weyant. According to this study, college students with ADHD have much higher ratings of internal restlessness than college students without ADHD. Ready, fire, aim. We all know that life does not have a rewind button, but throw impulsive comments into the mix, and you might enter a realm of awkward social situations. Professor of clinical psychology, Dr. Russell Ramsey, explains that adults with ADHD experience this constantly. Speech spontaneity is part of the package. They may find themselves blurting out responses before the entire questions are laid out, interrupting others mid-sentence, or finishing other people's thoughts. This impulsivity is due to hyperactivity manifested inside the brain. Adults with ADHD have many ideas and thoughts circling in their minds, and they fear that they may forget their thoughts if they wait too long, causing them to blurt out things and interrupt discussions they engage in. Trapped in the now. Whenever the topic of approaching deadlines is brought up in the conversation, I bet you'll hear a long sigh, followed by, "Oh no, that reminds me." There is a universal understanding that deadlines are stressful and can trigger a feeling of anxiety. This is especially true for adult ADHDers who may display excessive emotional reactions to deadlines or miss them entirely. Psychologist Ari Tuckman says that adults with ADHD are frequently trapped in the current moment and are more absorbed by what is happening now. They're much more affected by their surroundings and find it easier to disregard external cues. It's more difficult to make room for the future until finally they enter the future. And this is when mayhem starts. For example, even when they set the alarm clock for 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, they're still up and about at midnight. This pattern of chronic procrastination is caused by executive dysfunction, which involves difficulty planning or completing a job due to an inability to visualize the final outcome. Loss for words. You know, predictive text with text messages? Unfortunately, for those with ADHD, their brains work like the predictive text function. Licensed clinical social worker Timothy Kelly explains in a Psych Central article that when a person with ADHD speaks, their brain will deliver the following line to them even when they haven't yet finished the present sentence. In other words, their brain moves faster than their speech, leading to disorganized thinking. According to psychology professor Dr. Susan Whitbourne, difficulty in organizing thoughts causes adults with ADHD to sometimes experience a loss of words when they want to explain things to others. Unmotivated. Feeling unmotivated, the struggle that everyone can relate to. But neurodivergent adults experience this feeling of laziness differently. They may try really, really hard, but are still unable to accomplish their goal. Perhaps they see a pile of unwashed plates and cutleries, turn around and flee. They may come again at another time, but the same cycle of running away persists. According to a study by research psychiatrist Dr. Nora Valco, Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is active in the brain's pleasure and reward center and is involved in the regulation of motivation. The researchers found that there was not enough dopamine and dopamine transporter in the brain of adults with ADHD, which subsequently interfered with the dopamine reward pathway. Even when adults with ADHD believe there will be a reward at the end, they still find it hard to complete their tasks. Can you relate to any of these signs? I can. If you do, we urge you to talk to your family doctor or mental health professional to get it evaluated. Remember, having ADHD does not mean something's wrong with you. You're not weak, defective,